So now come down to how to prepare interview. Prepare interview is about prepare your own story. Really prepare your own story. You need to think about your own story, especially very, very hard for people who work for 20 years, 25 years. I mean, say if you start working at 22, you work for 25 years, you're 47. And if you start working at 22, you work for 30 years, you're 52. Can Americans retire at 52? No way. No, they can't. Because at 52, you have a daughter, 15-year-old, you have a son, 20-year-old in college, you have a mortgage, and you keep upgrading your house. American dream, right? Oh, I start with my townhouse, 1,000 square foot, then I moved to 2,000. Now I want to do really good. I have a 4,000 square foot house. I have a big mortgage, right? So it's very, very hard. And a lot of them, spouse doesn't work. It doesn't matter man or woman. One person works and the other person doesn't work. And the situation still in the society, most of men are working and women are not working. So I'm talking for general Americans that one lost that very good job at one job at which is he is a bread earner or she's a bread earner. It's very difficult. And you're used to it. And I have a teenager. We always talk about it. When you get a good life, like when we can go out, now we can't go out anymore. It's hard. It's just really hard. Before going to Starbucks and sitting down, just have a casual, just drink. Now you can't go there. It's very, very hard. Once you have a house with a view, with a pool, and your kids are in private school, you spend $1,000 on this, that, and buying clothes for Lululemon, go to yoga studio and play golf. Man, when you lose job, it's very hard. You don't have insurance. This country just doesn't have the social security for all of us. That's pose more challenges, people who are above 40, 45, 50. It's very, very difficult. So here you go, you lost a job and now you're gonna look for jobs like, oh my gosh, I went to so many companies, I did so many things. What am I gonna do? Oh my gosh, what am I talking about, right? So you need to go deep, empty here. You need to write down everything you did. Write down, in this company, what is your main job? In this company, if you have a supporting spouse and a supporting spouse knew what you did, that's great. If you're a single parent, maybe talking to some colleagues and get some refresh memory, you need help to put down your own story. And don't be afraid of asking help. And that's the whole theme I'm gonna talk about here, networking, asking for help. Because all I'm talking about here, the fundamental is team. It takes a team to make it, okay? So you need to talk about your own story. So here you go. Is if you're doing for technical, like technical job, so a lot of us in high tech, you need to think about like, if the job is looking for, say, cloud experience, so write down all the stuff you did for cloud. If you really never did it, you did it very little bit, forget about it, okay? But sometimes you could train yourself. You can get an AWS certificate. You can learn about Google Cloud Computing, and you can learn about Microsoft, the cloud, whatever the software, I think it's Azure. I learned about Azure, whatever. So you can get a certificate, but if you only have a certificate, you don't have experience, it's very difficult. That's just the way is, we have a saying in Chinese, 隔行如隔山. This is it. I have my old boss and got laid off, a senior director, and he came to me. He said, Dandan, can you help me get into biotech? And we're in chipset. And he want to go work for Alumni or the biotech company, because we're in San Diego, it's all biotech companies. And I tried my best. I got all the connections for him. I don't think he made it because he's so embedded in this chipset division and there's no way. So that's very difficult, but sometimes you can do it, especially when you're young. Especially when you're young, one way of doing it is go get an MBA. You can change your industry. MBA is where you change your career, okay? And I will talk more about for the interns and the college grads a little bit later. So, but if you have relevant technical skills, you need to put down apply for job, the relevant technical skill. That's very important. You need to have relevant technical skills. So if somebody, I knew that Google, they're one of the jobs, they're looking for Android. Of course, Android's right. And so if you have Android, they're going to interview you first, right? So, and then we recommend somebody that, has the chipset experience, but doesn't have the apps processor experience. So it's a little bit hard. So especially for senior jobs, the technical relevance is very, very important, okay? And then I said you need to use a lot of verbs, like I did this, I led this, I worked with this, kind of, and use the language and ask some good questions about when like prepare also for some questions on the technical area, in terms of what they're looking for. Sometimes they won't share of what they're doing, but you can still ask, and they think, oh man, you're smart, you know that area. But for youngsters, young interns and entry-level engineers, there are a lot of coding questions, and I put the website here. I'm gonna go here to because I may not share all the slides with you guys, so I would do here chat and here. Okay, so I put all this website for you guys, okay? You can grab it. I think, do I need to go in open one just to show you where it is? Let me see here. Okay, let's do one. Okay, those websites I give to you is you can learn to pass technical interviews. It's very important. Yes. So even for senior jobs, if you're interview engineering manager, you need to pass technical interviews. We hire a lot of interns at the NexStream, the machine learning company, and teaching machine learning, and we do a lot of interviews. And it doesn't matter what your background is. You have data science in the top school, Columbia, Stanford. It doesn't really matter, or Berkeley. Pretty much, we saw your background. What we ask you is, I have a survey here. You can tell. Okay, so I'm gonna go in just to show you what we ask, just to give you an understand. It's what we are asking. Okay, so we have internship. So what I do is, we have gonna have a new website. The website that I'm very similar to LO7. We're gonna have the recruiting website, everything automated. Right now it's not automated, but what I'm asking you to, because it's a technical job, I'm gonna ask you to which major. And I tell you, some company do. I hired a lot of people so my hiring started at Qualcomm. I rose very, very, very quickly. Within 8 years from entry-level job, I became a director. Very, very fast. It's a fast track. I started right out of school, and senior analyst, program manager or manager, senior manager, and I became a director, okay, very quickly. So at early 30s, 32 or 33, I was the director, and I was already start hiring all the time. So I'm very, very, very experienced in hiring, okay? And later on, I worked with LO7, with my brother's company. I travel, in addition to build all this infrastructure for their global expansion, I went to China every 2 months. A lot of my friends know that I travel to China all the time. I help them hire top jobs, the CMOs, and we interview the CTO together, and HRs and manager, product managers, and so the hiring I'm very, very familiar with. Okay, just so what I'm gonna do here is okay. So go, and for technical jobs, tell you, you can click other. You don't need to have a computer science, so long as you have. It doesn't matter. I tell you, doesn't matter. And for interns, it really doesn't matter which level. Okay. And then I'll tell you, availability to us is very important for internship. Okay, for full-time, of course, it's full-time. And then here you go now. We're gonna ask for STEM education is whether you have taught. This to us is important. So when all the data coming in, if I look at it, you had never taught it versus you taught a lot, I will give people who taught a lot experience if I'm hiring for an instructor, okay? However, And we are looking for a lot of folks doing STEM related curriculum. If people say never, I would not pay a big attention. If people say a lot, we'll definitely get kind of like sum up, okay? And then we talk about, active coding. Yes, people say I'm gonna 4 years and now pretty much I don't think we will get a job. Okay, sorry to say. And then which programming language? We're looking for Python for sure. That's basic for now, okay? And then different types of apps. And then, okay, this is very, very, very important. It's machine learning. We're gonna ask people whether you have machine learning packages that you are very familiar with. Okay, a lot of interns have familiar with TensorFlow. Okay, so and hardware experience, because we play with hardware. So if you do have, so Arduino and Raspberry Pi, it's a plus, right? Then most people say I could 555. They're just like, oh, I can work independently. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so once we get that, we get a lot of the applicants. We look at together and we filter out. We write a nice email. And I'm sorry, there are quite a few folks have applied. We have not got a chance because we haven't put a solid plan together for fall. But still, I apologize, but we'll get back to you guys. We do a group review. We look at all the resume together. We look at all the results together. And then we do group interview. And most companies, they do one-to-one. For us, with a small company and 2 founders, we do together. And bingo, the moment you join on the Zoom, it's 30 minutes. I never book a meeting more than 30 minutes. And this is probably the longest meeting I'm booking. I usually meet with people 30 minutes a block, okay? And the moment it got on it, Mr. Morrow, my partner, just throw in coding questions. Okay, we look at your resume, background, all good. And if you can pass, you can pass. That's very, very hard for the, so that's why, like, it doesn't matter you're Berkeley or Columbia or Stanford. Do I care about your degree? It looks great. But if you can't pass coding, you can't pass coding. I have students from not very famous school, because we here again, I'm sorry, I know majority of the audience today are first generation Chinese. And so I am going to talk about this again, is we value the name, the reputation of colleges so much. I think it's an overkill. I myself, okay, and that's why I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't share my recording, because some folks gonna slaughter me saying that, oh my gosh, her son went to top schools and now she's trashing the top schools. Okay, if you can get in, that's okay. That's great. If you cannot get in, or you choose not to go, you don't want to pay for it, a regular state college for computer science and EE is completely fine, because you can learn a lot of things outside of school. You can practice what you have learned. The top genius coders doesn't necessarily have a top degree, and they can pass the interviews. That's the most important. You pass the interviews, okay? So here people go, oh, I go to college, so I can network. That's great. You go to college, you network. That's it. Yeah, you network, right? So the thing is, you need know that I am hiring. You need to know the problem is a lot of people don't know the job opportunities. So once you know about it, we are treating you all equally. And okay, so talk about the senior folks now. You think that people are in their 40s and 50s looking for a job, they're gonna take a look at where you went to school for undergraduate? Forget about it. They probably won't care at all, right? But if you go to USC and they have the alumni, the children go to Michigan, say, everybody say go blue. That's an add-on. But that's not going to decide you whether you get the job. It's whether you get an internal referral, whether you can pass the interview, okay? So there are 2 things you need to overcome. First, you need to get the resume into the hiring manager. That's the networking, the teamwork. And then the second is real McCoy. It's real. It's also the very good. It's your skills, right? Your communication skills, your interview skills, your technical skills will get you the job, okay? I have a humanities major. I know I have Cornell alumni here, and some of them got laid off here, and they are joining today and in hospitality industry. I know I'm focusing too much on high tech. I'm going to talk a little bit about non-high tech a little bit later, okay? But right now, my presentation is geared for high tech, okay? Okay, so go. Okay, so now we talk about the interviews, right? So interviews, people, there's a saying that people say, okay, at first love, like when you, like you fall in love at the first sight, right? Interview is the same thing. It's when you go on, the first impression, the 30 seconds is very important. So you have to really prepare. So how do you, there are two things. I talk about technical skills and I talk about soft skills, right? Soft skills, here you go. Okay, identify some key projects or team you led when you involved or you were involved. So you need to talk about that, okay? And leadership skills, okay? Then highlight experience, right, per job requirements. We talk about it. If they're asking for program manager, even though you're an engineering manager, man, you better talk about, oh, I put a schedule together. I led a schedule together. I mitigate the risk. I did a presentation. I have a very good plan. I align the goals among the different stakeholders. So those kind of language you need to throw in, even though you were an engineering manager, you were not a technical program manager or product manager, but you need to highlight the duties as if you were a technical program manager, which you're interviewed for, okay? So that's kind of the, both on the packaging you need to do, okay? And then, okay, so yeah, so engineering, I talk about different projects, and then at, you need to prepare questions for different areas, right? And we talk about leadership, the job functions. They always ask you, what's the most difficult person you have worked? Like, what's your failure? What's your weakness? What's your strengths? All this buzz interview question, you can get all of them on YouTube. And I'm not going to list anything here, a whole list of it. Get them on YouTube. You will find them, okay? And you need to prepare. And if you are interviewing with a company like Amazon, they're going to say, hey, what's the 14 principles? You better memorize the Amazon 14 principles before you talk to Amazon, right? And if you interview with Google, and you better know, they're going to ask you, what's your favorite Google product? The same thing. If you never use Facebook and you want to interview for Facebook, forget about it. Okay, so you better use their products before you go interview it, right? So I think it's very important. So there's a lot of things like you can't really say, I would do my last minute crashes, crash course. It's very difficult. You need to be well-rounded. You need to be curious. You need to be interested in different things, not just work or stock market one thing or WeChat. You need to go on people, like when Stanford interview, they're going to ask you, on the essays, college, they're going to ask you, what's your favorite song? Of course, for the ABCs, a lot of them grew up with music and they don't say it. And for us, the first generation, for example, if you go back to the first, for graduate school, I don't know what's the first, the song, the favorite song, okay? So you need to be curious. You need to be exploring your life to be more well-rounded. It's very important, okay? So for Netflix, okay? I'm talking about FAANG a lot because FAANG are hiring, right? Just the reality, they are hiring. It is very sad that they're just the FAANG and the Tesla, so the FAANG and the T's, they're hiring. It's just the reality. So for Netflix, they have a very famous culture deck. And for management, they're very interesting company into a very, I won't say flexible, but very self-motivated culture. They let you to motivate yourself. Now many companies have like, or you can take vacations. They started, you can take unlimited vacation long time ago. So I read their deck many times because I was helping my brother's company to re-engineer themselves. Okay, so if you're interviewing with Netflix, you need to know about their culture. Okay, so you need to know yourself. You need to know the company you're interviewing for. Okay, you need to do a lot of research with the public company, the private company, how many employees, what the products, what the service, whether they're making money, who's the investor. And there's a lot of websites like Crunchbase, the Capital IQ. Somebody just shared that with me. And there's private company, you can find a lot of information. So you need to do a research to know them, know yourself, okay? And then you need to know about your accomplishments. What you did. Here you go. Again, going back to first generation American or first generation Chinese immigrants, is we are taught our culture is so modest. And if like, oh, you don't feel like I'm boasting, right? You don't feel like you're talking up. I'm not asking you to fabricating anything. I want you to be honest with yourself. But I want you to kind of really think about your accomplishment. A lot of things you did, you don't think they worth mentioning. Sometimes they do worth mentioning, especially for low-level engineers. Like a bug you fix, you know, a challenge that you guys a product you're trying to design, and the very, very last minute, and product management keep changing. And those things like day-to-day stressful things you can think about, and you did really well. So I really want you to go back and think about what you have done. And surprisingly, okay, my son is writing application for college application. Like, okay, what I didn't do anything. Like the first thing, like, I didn't do anything. Okay, he did a lot. He did so much. Yeah, he did not win award that, you know, worth mentioning, a big award. But he did a lot of things that's worth mentioning. So you think about what you have done, okay? And then you also, people gonna ask you about what your weakness, right? You think about what is your really weakness. Then you're gonna say, okay, I don't really wanna talk about my weakness. Like you don't want the people really know you are weak. But it's completely too okay to show that you're weak, right? My biggest weakness is I'm always late because I'm so aggressive in estimating the schedule. And I used to live work very, very closely, 10 minutes. And in the first 9 o'clock meeting, I'm always there 9:10. Okay, I am always overestimating it, or you know, underestimating whatever the time to get into a meeting. So now with Zoom, I'm much better. I'm always on time now. And Zoom is funny that we're all on time now, because if you're like, okay, I'm looking at 6:30, if I started at, you know, 6:35, everybody will be really upset because everybody is joining on time, right? This is good for Zoom meeting. That's really good. And then if you are in a special tool, it's like, okay, do you know Jira, like a software management? Do you know Salesforce? Do you know Splunk? And do you know Trello? Like a lot of tools, like a product management, or you know CAD, you know, your specific areas. Like if you know to design hardware, they have specific software or process, the tool related question you need to know, okay? So you need to prepare the technical skill, the coding skills, and also now talk about non-technical areas like hospitalities is basically you know, you gonna most difficult customer, right? If you're a lobby, you're in the manager in the managing a big hotel, your customers are your clients, the most challenging clients. And how do you deal with like last minute refund, unreasonable customers, something spilled in the carpet, those detailed things. So you just have to think about what have you done and come up with a story, right? And then for people who are writers and the editors, and they're gonna look at your piece. That we hire, LO7 hire a lot of editors. And I'm not an editor, but I work with chief editor. And some of them, they just can't edit. And we send them a sample. We always give them a sample to edit. And they can't. It doesn't matter. They said, I have 20 years school teaching experience. They can't pass the interview. Okay, so that specific area, either editing or writing, or the social media for marketing is what you have done. Okay, you said, oh, I manage this website. Everything's public. I can go on to any website, any of the website, I tell you where monthly traffic is. Nobody can hide anything. I can find anything, either paid or non-paid. And I go on your website, oh my gosh, your website is only like 300 clicks a month. Forget about it. So you need to talk about, okay, I got it to 10,000 in the beginning, how long, what's my strategy, what's the SEO I use, what's the tools I use SEO. So whatever the relevant things you can always talk about, plus all the soft skills. Yeah. Okay. And then you need to, I think this gonna go over a little bit. It's okay. Last time it went over an hour. That's a lot. I think it's very late for East Coast, but I need to finish this. You need to practice your interview. Okay. Right now, most people doing Zoom or Google Meetings, I would use Zoom to record and then look at what you have said. It's very, very important is to, if you have a supporting spouse, have them look at it. If you have a great parent, have the parent look at it. If you have great friend, have the friend look at it. Look at your recording and look at your posture, look at the way you talk. You need to have enough voice, you need to be passionate, you need to use body language, you need to see eye to eye. It's very, very important. And if you have a coach, I do have a coach that coached me along the way for executive training. He trains me, he tells me what to say, what not to say, and how to be curt, how to be firm. And it's very important. But we are looking for a job, so most of us don't have the budget. If you do have the budget, I would hire a professional coach, but that's not me, okay? I'm not in this industry, okay? And my coach is too expensive, so I won't recommend either. But with all said, having a coach, a mentor is very, very important, okay? And then energy level must be high, and then you go in. It's very important. Before you go interview, you always need to feel that you already have the job. And you already have the job. You never go in, you fear that you don't have the job. You need to have the feeling you already got to get the job, okay? You need to attract the energy in the universe that the energy will bring you the job, okay?